Hello and welcome to this SAP Education video demonstration. My name is Hai Bouten and I will show you exercise 1 of the HA200 course. This involves installing an SAP HANA system as a single host system. For this I will be using the SPS11 hdblcmgui. If you think, hey, isn't this an SPS11 demonstration? Yes, you're correct. But the differences between SPS10 and SPS11 from the installation point of view is very small. And if we first install SPS10, then later on we can easily patch the system to SPS11. That's why we are performing first the installation in SPS10. For the landscape, we are using the landscape shown here in this slide. On the left hand side you will see here the local PC that you will be using, and from this local PC you will be able to create a remote desktop connection or a secure shell connection to the server. The server, called hdblcmgui will be used for this demonstration, and on this one we will install a system called SHS, and also we use the instance ID 20. The HANA system will be installed on the local storage in the subdirectory as /HANA. For the exercise we first going to check some parts of the operating system, so let's go over to a secure shell. Here it is. And the first thing we then need to do in the exercise is to check if the installation media is available. So go over to the subdirectory /data, training, revision 102, and then data units. If you then do a ls here, we will list the content of the installation DVD, and there you see that all the installation subdirectories are available. We see the hdblcm, but also the server and the studio subdirectories, the client software, so everything is nicely available. We can also go over to the /HANA subdirectory, and you see that doesn't even exist. It's completely empty there. We don't have to create this because this will be created during the installation. So now we can go over to the remote desktop. I also already opened the remote desktop, so let's go over there. And here in the remote desktop I now can start the installation. The installation DVD on the remote desktop is located in the folder training here. So when I open it, we also see that we are in data training revision 102. In the subdirectory data units, when I open that one, I will need to search for the subdirectory called hdblcm Linux. That's this one. And this is the installation subdirectory. In this subdirectory we will find the installation tools. There are three tools available. The hdblcm, that's the ASCII based tool that we could use for an installation. We could also use the hdblcmgui, that's the graphical tool. And for patching, we actually can use the hdblcm web, that's a browser-based tool for patching and some other administrative tasks on the HANA database. But for this demonstration, we're going to use the hdblcmgui. So let's start this one. Clean up the screen a little bit to make it look nicer. And the hdblcmgui has found all these components. Now you see they are all revision 102, so that's nice. So we can start the installation, go over to the next screen with the button next. So there isn't anything installed yet on this system, so that's why the installation tool proposes here a new installation, because it can't find any system to update. So that's fine, we can say next. And here it shows me all the installation components that I can install. Mandatory installed is of course the database, as you can see, and also the client software. That's already pre-selected. But maybe I want to install also the application function libraries. I just mark it here. For this demonstration we will not install any additional components, we just keep it as standard as possible. So I say next. Now I can choose between a single host system and a multi-host system. This demonstration is about a single host system, so I can just select single host system and I continue. Now I have to check the information shown here. So the installation is indeed to be performed on the 7194 system. The installation part will be the default one, /HANA/shared. But if you want to change this, that's possible by clicking here on this little yellow folder button. And it will show you the possibility to navigate to a different folder. You can even create folders if you want. But we don't want to do this. We want to keep the standard installation part. The SAP HANA system ID will be SHS. So I just type this one in. That's a mandatory field. And then the installation number, or instance ID, will be 20. So let's make it 20. Then the database mode shown here is a single container. If you want to do a multi-container, then it's also possible to select this one. But here we're going to keep it standard, and it's a single container system. If you then do a single container system, we don't have to specify the database isolation. This is only necessary if you have a multi-container installation. And for the system usage, we can select custom, development, test, production. And if you, for example, would select production, then later on in the HANA Studio, you would actually get the color of the SID a little bit in a different way, and also it will tell you that you're performing some exercise on a production system. So here we just keep it on a custom system, that's fine. If you want to change the memory value that is allocated to this HANA system during the installation, you can just use the slider here. But here on this system, we just use the default memory settings. Also, if you want to restart the SAP HANA system after the server reboot as an automatic restart, you just mark this checkbox. Here again, we don't want to do this, so I just leave it blank. So we can continue to the next screen. And this is a screen where the SAP HANA storage locations will be created. So as you can see, the data volumes are then stored in /HANA/data/SHS, that's correct. And the log volumes are created in /HANA/log/SHS. Also, if you want to change this location, that's possible by again clicking here on this little yellow folder icons. But here in this demonstration, I want to keep it as standard as possible. So let's continue to the next screen. In the next screen, I get asked the host name for the certificates the HANA installation will create. So here you see that the source host name is 7194, and it will also use that one for the certificates. If for some reason this host name is not correct, you can select the line and say edit certificate host, and you will be able to change the name that will be generated for the certificate. But here this name is fine, so I just leave it. And I continue to the next screen. So in this screen, it asks me for the system administrator. That's the operating system user. That's the owner of all the files of the SAP HANA system. By default, and as you can see, you can't change this, it's the SHS ADM. So it's a SID ADM like in ABAP systems, and it requires a password. So the password that you need to fill in here is at least 8 characters long. It has to be uppercase and lowercase, and also requires characters and digits. So type in a password that will work. Then it also automatically already picks a user ID number, so 1001, and also a group ID for the group subsys. That's 79. In the installation that you will perform on the training systems, you will not see this option because it's already used and created by the ABAP system on that server. But here this is a complete plain system, so there you see that user group ID as well. Then for the login shell, by default it takes /bin shell, that's fine, and also the home directory for the SHS ADM users created in user sub SHS home. This is the default location, and that's fine. So now we can continue to the next screen. And now it asks me for the password of the system user. The system user is the super user inside the database, and it also needs a password. Again, it has to be 8 characters long, has to be also digits in there, and uppercase, lowercase. So pick a password. and that will then be used for the system user inside the database. For this blank installation that I'm demonstrating here, we will also get the screen for the SAP host agent. Again, during the installations that you will perform on the training systems, you will not see this question for the password of the host agent, because this host agent is already installed by the ABAP system on the servers, so it will not re-ask this. Again, it will only check if it's the correct version, and if not, it will update the version, otherwise it will just continue. So you will not see this normally in the training systems. Again, the password needs to be 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, and it needs to contain digits. So after we typed in the password, we can continue to the next screen. And this next screen is already the summary. So check if you filled in all the correct things. So it's on this host, it's SHS and 20 single container, that's fine. The locations of the data and log volumes. It will allocate the maximum memory, and that's shown by the 0 here. That means it will take all the memory on the server. And it shows me also the components that will be installed. So that's fine. Now I can click install and the installation will be executed. This installation of the SAP HANA database will take around 15 minutes on your training systems. So during this time you can already release the screens to the participants, and they can also already start the installation. And then later on you can take control of the screens again and show you the summary of the installation results. For now I will pause this video so that at the end I will come back to you when the installation is done. So as you can see, the installation is already finished. This was really quick. So during the last steps here, it installed also the resident hdblcm, which we later on can use for patching the system. What you could do now is at the end is show the log files here, so that the HANA database was installed successful. You can see the time of installation when it starts. But then it's fine, you can finish it. So the installation is done. So the next thing we need to do is to check if the installation was correctly and to check some paths. So I will close this one. And let's go back to the terminal again. In the terminal, I could now go over to /HANA as a subdirectory. And in here, you will actually see that there is something now happening because the data and log and shared subdirectories are created. Also on the other location user SAP, there's something installed. Because here you see that host control, so the host agent is installed, but also the SIT SHS ADM. In /HANA data, you will actually see that there's a SIT SHS created. I could also go over to HANA shared. And in here you will also see that there's a SHS subdirectory created. Let's have a look at the SHS as well. And in here you see all the other tools and instance directory. The HDB20 is, for example, the instance directory, but you also see the HDB client tool is installed, but also the resident hdblcm. The global subdirectory is there. So this is then showing me that all the different locations have been nicely created and installed. The last thing that you can do is check if the HANA database is up and running. So do a switch user to SHS ADM. So I'm now the SAP HANA user, the SHS ADM, and with the hdb-info command, I can check if the system is up and running. And here you see the different services like the HTTP name server, HTTP compile server, the index server, that's the database itself. So these are nicely up and running. So that's perfect. So this then actually concludes my demonstration. So thank you for watching, and I hoped that you enjoyed this video.